Hello YouTube, it is Arno coming to you again from my channel, and once again welcome back to another episode of Retro Life. And here is my friend CK.
Hello, what's up everybody?
Been a while, so glad we're back and we're getting ready to roll with a game that has been selected by you guys. So let's go right into it. So this is Retro Life, and where we talk about games from the 1980s and 1990s. We review everything on a love, like, and loathe scale. At the end, we're going to choose 3 games for you to pick for our next podcast, and we'll flip a coin and see who wins. Lots of fun coming up.
That's right. The game that we're reviewing today is a game that I've played back when I was younger and I had the console. Not a very popular game per se, but definitely one that if anyone played it would absolutely love it. It is called Shatterhand, and it's by Jaleco. The developers of this game was Natsumi. The publishers were Jaleco, and it was kind of like a combined effort. And the game is a kind of side-scroller shoot-'em-up, but instead of guns, you're using bionic fists, hence the name Shatterhand. The game was released in 1991, later in the Nintendo's lineup. It was heavily showcased, it was heavily marketed in Europe and Japan.
So let's get started with the review. And we're going to start with graphics first. So what did you think of the graphics in Shatterhand, CK?
The graphics in Shatterhand are pleasing. It's a very good looking game. If you've listened to our previous podcast, that you know that RL and I like to reference Contra as kind of like benchmark, as a base for a lot of these games, and it definitely has a heavy Contra feel, but with a sharper sprite animation. The colors are similar to Contra in that way, you know, dark skies and a lot of steel grays and blues. The character looks really cool. He's got a bomber vest, sunglasses, and he runs around punching stuff. It's pretty cool. The animations are nice with regards to the character animations, with regards to the environment animations, and I really liked it right from the beginning. I really liked it, and I'm saying I really liked it when I really mean I love it. This game gets a retro love from me.
It's amazing. You love it, and yet you still don't give it a double love.
It's not amazing. It's not amazing. No, overall, I love the game, but graphics.
Give a game a double love for crying out loud. No, I'm joking. I never heard of this game before you brought it up. I really was impressed with the look of the game. It is a game that you could tell they really took advantage of the system's hardware more so than the earlier titles in that on the system. You know, you could see that they really knew what they were doing with this game, because it's very detailed, the graphics. Even the character animations look obviously not Super NES, but they're a lot clearer, crisper, and more detailed than a lot of games on the system. It's very detailed, and I'm very impressed with the style of the graphics and the way it looks. They did a really good job. They really did. I was impressed with the graphics. I don't think I've seen many games that look better than this game on the system. Let's just say that.
That's high praise.
Yeah, high praise. Graphics are better than Contra, but
they are.
If it came out earlier, it would have been a huge hit.
I think so.
In North America,
I believe so as well.
So it's all about timing. But graphics is a love for me. Yeah, I give it a love.
Awesome.
So we're both tied so far. So moving on to music, what did you think of the music in the game, CK?
The music for me is memorable. Again, I think it just goes back to my, I would say, childhood. When I first heard of the game and started playing it, it stuck with me. Like the Contra music, it's one of those games where it's got good energy. It really keeps you in the groove. You know, there are some memorable tracks. Track 1 is like the track. Every time anybody ever mentions Shatterhand or it comes up in conversation, the first thing that comes to mind is that level 1 music. It's kind of that whole Mario concept where that one game that you kind of just love, and that first level is always, you know, memorable. It's something that's part of your childhood for most people, and it's part of a great memory for me. So I love the music. They're very upbeat tracks. They definitely made use of all the beats and percussions you can use in this console. And this game, like you'd said, they really leveraged, you know, the hardware on this game, and it shows. The music gets a retro love from me.
Nice. consistent so far. That's very good. Yeah, the music is, I really like the music. The music is really upbeat, and it's a lot of games on the system in that era were a little tinny, and the music was very faint, or like kind of like, I wouldn't say staticky, but it was like hissy
like
sometimes.
High, hissy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm thinking of Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yes.
Ghouls and Ghosts has amazing music, but it was just handled so badly on the NES. It ruined it. The people that developed that game did not know how to use the sound on the NES. It was just brutal. But this one, it sounds really good. I definitely enjoyed the music. It didn't take me out of the game. It definitely felt like a lot of games of that era, but it wasn't generic,
That's right.
Like, it's nothing, it didn't reinvent the wheel. It's not like, oh my god, this is so amazing, but it was enjoyable. It didn't take me out of the experience. It was motivating, which was music should do, right? It should keep you engaged and help you along. I feel it could be more iconic if it had a better reception, but the music is definitely high end, and I will give it a double like.
Oh, double like.
Yeah, I want to use the double like. I can't say I love it because I don't have enough experience with it. It doesn't resonate with me as much as it did for you. I wish I played this as a kid. I would have had a lot more fondness of this game. But it's a game that I would want to play again. The music was enjoyable. So yeah, double like. So let's move on to sound effects. What did you think of the sound effects in this game?
The sound effects do justice for the game. And as we've mentioned with some other games, they fit the game. They are a lot of the sounds that are, I'm not to say they sound the same. The games of this era for Nintendo, a lot of the sounds had that same essence. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the sound that sounds the same, but it's just the tones that are there, the pitches that are there. A synthesizer that, again, is all digital, then processed through the console. The sound effects work for me. I like the sound effects because they work for the game. Collecting a coin, punching a guy. There's this whooshing sound as you punch, which is kind of cool because you can only imagine how hard he's punching or how fast he's punching for his fists to make a whooshing sound. Explosions, like the robots blowing up and things getting burnt, they sound like every other game where you hear machinery blowing up or things getting burnt. So it's nothing special. And for that, I give it a double like. I like it more than most, so it deserves a double like.
Cool. Yeah, the sound effects do its job. I don't really notice sound effects as much, and that's usually a good thing, because if the only times I really notice when the sound effects are bad, you notice where it just sounds weird. The sound effects were efficient. It sounds like what it should sound for that era. There's punches and explosions, and there's not a lot of bullets, but there are bullets that come at you. They sound like what they should sound like. It wasn't like, oh my god, amazing sound effects, but it wasn't anything that was like, oh, what the hell are they doing here?
That's right.
But this game, it was good. It added to the experience. It didn't detract, which is all you really want in a game with sound effects, right?
That's right.
You want it to add. You don't want to have nothing, because if you have nothing and you punch something and nothing happens, it just seems, did I punch it or did I just see it? It needs to have some indication that you're doing damage to a boss, having sound effects. So it's important. I'm giving it a like.
Fantastic.
So moving on to gameplay. What did you think of the gameplay in Shatterhand?
You guys can probably feel it. RL, you can probably feel it too in my energy from the beginning of this. Was Shatterhand's like one of those games for me. It's number 2 in my top 3 games on the console. Let me tell you something. This game plays a lot like Mario, Contra, Strider fusion. Like, it's just really cool. Everything that's cool about side-scroll platformers and shoot-'em-ups is in this game. Now, again, there are no guns per se, but I mean, you have this little assist bot that you get throughout the game when you collect these certain emblems, these seals. There's 2 different types of seals, but you can combine them in 3s, which means that you can create a total of 9 different combinations, and they all have their own unique shoot or lasers or whatever their special attack is. Plus, when you collect a certain amount of points, I believe, or a certain combination, your character gets a suit of armor, and he punches fireballs. Dude, he punches fireballs. Okay,
that's
so
awesome.
That's just one of the things that makes this game. So it's got this kind of Metroid-ish / Mega Man feel as well to it, with regards to, well, the Mega Man bit kind of with regards to selecting your levels at the beginning.
Right.
Now, the game doesn't have a lot of levels to select from, but the levels that you do play are heavily multi-layered like Mega Man, so you're doing a lot of up and down, more so than just a side scrolling. It's got sliding on ice, similar again to a Mario type game where you have certain levels that you have to maneuver. It's got conveyor belts that push you in the opposite direction. It's got underwater effects where you technically when you're jumping and you're moving, it's like you're floating because of the buoyancy of the water. It's got a gravity level where you're actually running upside down on the level and basically jumping and doing everything in reverse or inverted. Bro, the game is great. I can never say enough good things about the gameplay in this game. Double retro love.
I feel the passion. It's a game that I wish I had played as a kid to have as much passion for it as you do. Since I don't have a time machine and we're not playing Back to the Future, so it won't happen. Gameplay, I definitely, I do feel the game has a lot of amazing elements to it. And I definitely see a lot of things that they took from other games from that era.
Yep.
A lot of the rocks look a lot like Contra, I noticed, on the walls.
That's
and
right.
There's some plants that shoot out fireballs from like the sides, like kind of like Mario. Falling boulders are pretty cool. The flame animation, I mean, it's not gameplay, but it's, it really adds to the gameplay.
That's right.
I love climbing on the chains. Mario did that, but later in the Mario World.
Yes, the chain link hangs onto the fence.
I don't think I've ever seen that on the NES era.
No, not at all.
So that was very unique, and that was really appreciative. In the water effects, I was very surprised how it looked really detailed. It looked like you were in water for that era,
For that era,
so, I mean, there was even a splash. You could see a splash when you jumped out of the water and in it. I thought that was really well done. Took the time to make the details, and it adds to the feel when you're playing the game.
That's right.
So the game is enjoyable. It's not a shooter type game, but it's like a punching, I like the power-ups idea. It's really good collecting, and then the combinations. I haven't seen all the power-ups. I do feel like his punch is more powerful than some of the power-ups, which was kind of funny. It's like I'm shooting with this laser, and I'm like, it's the same amount of time or more to take them down, and then punching is so much easier. But I guess as the game goes on and you play it further, I'm sure the power-ups get a little stronger, a little more powerful, I would think.
And a lot more useful. Yeah, a lot more useful for stuff like ranged attacks and such like.
Gameplay is really enjoyable. I would give it a love. It's a retro love for me. I was thinking of giving it a double like, but your passion made me bring it to a love. How about that?
Fantastic.
It's the first time I got swayed. I say swayed. I mean, I'm honest, you
were influenced.
I was influenced.
Yes.
I like passion, and when I hear the passion, and it makes me appreciate the game a little bit more. So, gameplay is a retro love, and you think it's a double love, so that's awesome. So let's move on to controls. What did you think of the controls in this game?
I like the controls in this game. They are a little tighter than some, especially with regards to kind of these side scrolls / beat 'em ups, shoot 'em ups, I guess, kind of like a fusion this game would be. It works for the game. I think that the elements that they add brings the controls a little bit better. Simple things like conveyor belts, being able to have to run in opposite directions, jumping and landing, which you can, you could do a short jump and a long jump with a single button, which is kind of neat. I think a few other games had it. I wasn't sure if Mario has it. Like if you tap the jump, it's not a full jump, but if you press the button, it's a full jump. This game has that as well, and I think that definitely adds to it. There are some people that learn how to use, a half jump and a full jump versus always a full jump. Moving around in the game is easy, basically punching left and right. So you don't require incredible controls. It doesn't need to be super tight. There's no like small level landing and stuff. So I give the controls in this game definitely a like. I like them enough because it works. I guess maybe that might be downplaying it a bit, but I think a like is honest for me with regards to my rating. The fact that you're not fighting the controller. But if your controls are whack, the game's whack. Sure. It doesn't matter how amazing the game looks. So I you know what? I changed my mind. I'm going to upgrade it. It's a double like. Really? There's a love and there's a double love, and I think like falls in the above average, and I think the controls in this game are above average for sure.
It's a real time changer in scoring, folk. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. It's hard to rate controls. I mean, I really think the best way, as long as it doesn't infuriate you, then you're going to like it at least, right? It's not the most important thing, but it's definitely something that's underappreciated in most games. People don't focus on controls as much as graphics or gameplay, but it's so important to the game to have tight controls. For me, the controls are very well done. They're tight. I didn't have any trouble jumping. I didn't have any trouble. There was a couple times where I got stuck on the chain. I didn't know exactly how to maneuver it, but it wasn't frustrating. It just was learning the skill set.
That's right.
So the controls are fluid. They don't feel too sluggish. They don't feel too fast. There's not a lot of platforming, a lot of big jumps that I notice. A lot of times where I don't like controls, I feel like I'm walking in quicksand or something, or feel like they're too loose. There was a level you told me about that was kind of like ice, like you're on a slippery of thing.
Yes.
I feel like it's automatically feels like you're sliding without even moving. Yeah, so it's not like it's terrible in the sense like, oh my god, I can't move it. It's just like you're just already used to that sliding mechanic, so it makes it very easy to maneuver. I didn't have any hard time with that, so I felt the controls do its job. I'll give it a retro double like.
It's hard to rate, huh? Like it's hard to be honest in that space. Controls is one of those finicky things where you can lean one way or another. If the game has like clear holes in it or clear flaws, you can say, without a shadow of a doubt, Half-like, I love it, because of all the stuff, like, when we talk about Yoshi's Island. Yoshi's Island is one of those games where you love the controls. They just work, and everything all the elements that they give you in the game make controlling the character so much better. In this, it serves the purpose, kind of like a Contra, but I think it feels tighter than a Contra because there's a lot more going on than that game back then.
Right. But controls are very connected to the actual experience of the game, and controls don't stand out for me as much, but it doesn't take away from the game, so it's a double like. Anyways, I'm rambling. We'll move on to difficulty. So what do you think of the difficulty in this game?
Difficulty. There is no difficulty selection, so that's kind of one of those things where we talked about having an option to be able to modify your difficulties is great, especially for a game that they know you can scale it. This game doesn't have it, similar to Contra. It's kind of, it throws you in, it warms you up over the first level, and then you're kind of just, trial by fire type of thing. You figure it out as you go along, and you get better. And as you play every level, you just get better. And as you understand the controls of the characters, the bosses, and especially your assist bots, it makes the game manageable. So with that being said, and kind of working your way through to the bosses and to the end, it's not a very difficult game per se. It's long, it's definitely challenging, and it's entertaining. And sometimes difficulty adds to that entertainment, sometimes it takes away from it. I don't think the difficulty really adds or takes away from the game experience, so it gets a retro like from me. I think it's difficult enough that you have to play it to get it, but once you get it, you can just burn through the levels quick, but it's still entertaining because it's not linear. The levels aren't linear, so you still gotta maneuver around, and at that point you're playing to get more coins, to try different assist bots, play the game. It has replayability for me. I think that's a huge thing with regards to difficulty as well, and I like the fact that it's hard enough for me to replay it and still be a challenge, even though I know the levels and even though I know what's coming and how to manage it. So it gets a like. It's not hard, but it's not easy either. Fantastic.
So for difficulty for me, the game, as you said, doesn't have adjustable difficulty. Most NES games, I don't think a lot of them did.
I don't think so either.
Contra for sure did not. Never did. There's not a lot of... Most games in that era in NES really had, you just play the game. There's no difficulty setting. Nowadays, obviously all games now have adjustable difficulties. No game doesn't have that. That's a staple. It's a staple.
It's mandatory. Yeah.
It's mandatory. Well, back in the NES era, it was definitely not. Back in the day, a lot of games in the NES era were super hard. But this game isn't super hard. I feel I had a decent time with the game. I didn't feel it was frustrating to a point where there's some games where I played Bionic Commando for one, Russian Attack, where I feel like, oh my god, it's brutally hard, where you're just like, it takes a lot of time just to get to that second level, where I felt this game wasn't as challenging and wasn't as punishing as a lot of games. But the game for me, I give it a double like. I wouldn't give it a love, and I think a like is too low, so it's a double like. I enjoyed it. I feel it's a fair game. It's definitely in the middle range of not too easy, not too hard. So moving on to fun factor. What do you think of the fun factor in this game?
It's super fun, and I definitely place this game, and like I said earlier as we started, in my top 3. I think I attest it to my childhood experience, my first experience. It was a game that I played after Contra, and it was one of those games that even after I played it, and even after I played SNES games, it is still by far one of my favorite side-scroll shoot 'em up / beat 'em up / whatever it is. It's a hybrid, and it's a fantastic game. The experience is great. It looks awesome. It sounds great. The melody's in my head, and I always smile when I play it. And I smiled actually when I mentioned the game to you, and you said you haven't heard about it. I'm like, okay, wait till you play it. It's one of those. It's one of those games, and I didn't want to set you up for anything, so I really didn't want to go there. But
sure.
It's the fun factor is all over the wall with me. The game is awesome. So it gets a double retro love. Is there a double retro love?
No, that's that's a triple love. Why don't you just give it a triple love? We're just going to alter it once again and just say triple loves. No, you give it a double love. It's a double love all the way, hands down, no questions. I know you love it. I know. I'm not shocked that you gave it a double love. I'd be shocked if you gave it a double like or just a love. But I know you. This is obviously a game that you played in the past. You grew up with it, so it's a game that's obviously I could see why you love it. It's obviously a great game. I'm not saying it's all nostalgia love. I think this game deserves all the praise you give it. But this game, maybe they should have waited to put it on a Super NES.
Oh, man.
In my opinion, I think they probably did a disservice putting it on the NES so late because it's all about timing, and this game deserved a better fate. Did they ever make another game?
No, it was.
So it's just a one-off. It was a one-off. It did take a lot of things from other games, but made it their own. Didn't feel like they were copying or just cheaply taking stuff for laziness. It fit. Everything fit like a puzzle. But I could see the inspiration that they took from other games on the platform at the time. It's noticeable, but it works.
Right.
The game is a fun game. It's just enjoyable, and the varied enemies, the detail in the graphics, the details in the world, the background, the lighting, the way they use the dark and light. They did such an amazing job. It almost looks like it could have been a Super NES game because of the layout, and everything just looks so polished. It didn't look like a standard NES. It looked like it belongs on the NES. You could see the limitations the NES provided that they couldn't do, but they went past it. They knew how to use the system. They did it so well, and yet there was not a lot of flickering of the graphics.
Very little flickering.
Very little flickering. And you think there'd be a lot of it because this game pushes the envelope. I think they pushed the system to its limit. Like they were tapping into some secret hardware that they did not know existed. It's almost like like Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PS3 just looks almost like a PS4 game, and it's just like, how did they freaking do that? It's an open world game, and it looks just as good as any game. Like, I know all this praise, I'm gonna give it a love, not a double love. So
that's cool.
I think this is the first review that I didn't give a double love to anything. Except for Back to the Future, of course, but that deserves it. It's a retro love. So, moving on, is there a story in this game that you want to talk about? I did not notice a story.
I believe the wiki said something along the lines of this guy was like a cop, and he lost his arms combating some of these soldiers, and so some special department created these cybernetic arms for him.
It sounds like Bionic kind of man.
Literally like Bionic.
I think we're just going to move on. It's not enough for me to review. And now we're going to do a influence bonus score. I'm gonna give it I don't want to say a 0 because it really didn't influence. What do you think?
I don't think it had a huge influence really on anything. There wasn't enough of the game that was unique enough for it to be used somewhere else. And they seamlessly fused it in its own story. But ultimately, it is not anything unique by any means, and I don't think it's been referenced. I give it a 0. It didn't really have any influence.
So this is the portion of the review where we tabulate our scores. Okay, so our scores are you're a 32 and I'm a 30, so let's flip the coin.
We just say heads or high and go from there.
Yes.
Okay, let me flip it now. Heads or high.
Look at that. You win again.
Hey, look at that. Say, guys, it's an honest flip of a coin.
I trust CK to be honest with his flips, and I've known him long enough to believe what he says, so I'm not questioning it. I just want to win next time. But anyway, so you win, so you get to pick the next 3 games.
For our next review. So, my 3 picks are going to be Ghouls and Ghosts for Sega Genesis, Kirby Superstars for the SNES, and Golden Axe for the Master System.
Good choices.
Yes.
So that's all for now. Thanks for joining me again on another episode of Retro Life. Always fun to have you, and a lot of fun review of a game that I never heard of.
I'm happy that I was able to showcase a game that you felt just fit, something that you just like, kind of like when you just found out about Sunset Riders. It was one of those games where you played it and you're like, damn it, I love this game, this is cool.
How come I never heard of it? Yeah.
And I'm glad Shatterhand was one of those games where, and I've always felt that way about this game when I mentioned to people, either they played it or they hadn't, and most people that end up trying it, they're like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool. I honestly believe it's one of those hidden gems, like you had said, and more people should play it. If you guys are listening to this podcast and you've never heard of Shatterhand, go and play the game and spend a half an hour enjoying what we in my childhood really thoroughly enjoyed. I'm glad you did. I wish you enjoyed it when you were younger, though.
Well,
we'd be reveling over it right now.
I don't have a time machine.
Thanks again for having me, RL. This is really good to be able to showcase a game that I truly feel passionate about.
On that note, we'll have more Retro Life reviews in the weeks, months, and years to come. Bye for now.
Take it easy, everyone.